Welcome to the first installment of the Net Profit Podcast. I'm Niall.
I'm Dar.
And you found a podcast to do with men's tennis. Well done, congratulations.
Yep.
We're also taking a slightly different angle to most podcasts, where we're going to have a large slant on betting angle, basically.
It's pretty much all. It's going to be mainly about betting. Bit of news, bit of everything else.
Yeah, using our own system.
Yes.
Which you can listen to in a little bit more detail in a separate podcast.
You can.
The link is below this video. And you can get clued up about what kind of system we use for our bets.
Make it a bit easier to understand what our predictions on Twitter mean.
Yeah, exactly. We post our bets on Twitter. We're going to be talking about our bets in this podcast. And to fully understand it, might be worth having a listen to that. But yeah.
We'll crack on in the meantime.
We'll crack on. So what's the news, first of all? What's going on in tennis?
Well, hit me with it, Niall.
Well, Djokovic just destroyed Nadal about 20 minutes ago.
He did.
6-2, 6-2 in the China Open final. What do you think, Dar? You're a big Nadal fan.
I am a Nadal fan.
Disappointed?
I think it would have been a major win for Nadal. I know it's not a slam. It would have been even harder in an event like that. But I think 6-2, 6-2. It's a fairly easy win.
A clear reflection of where Nadal is at this stage. I
think it is. I mean, the latest world rankings, Ferrer's just literally skipped above Nadal. 7th. Yep. I mean, back in Nadal's heyday, Ferrer wouldn't have been within an arse's roar of his world ranking status. But times have changed.
I'm happy to see Ferrer get up there above Nadal. He's always been in Nadal's shadow. I love Ferrer. I think he's an absolute beast.
He is.
He's just like the stereotypical Spanish bull.
He's
walking around the court snorting. Like, the guy never gives up. He's a real fighter.
He's been good to us too. I mean, he's given us a few wins.
He's good for it when it comes to
he never gives up. No, and he always looks like he's going to run rings around himself.
Not a guy you'll tank a la Tomic and Berdych and
Dimitrov,
Anderson,
these kind of players.
These kind of lads who you're never happy putting your money on, basically.
No.
It's always a risk.
And these are players that you'll probably see us bet on very, very few times throughout the tennis season.
But I was hoping to maybe talk about this match before it started. We were a little bit late starting.
We are.
I want to read out a quote from Nadal pre-match. I think this kind of shows where his head is at this stage. So this is what he said before the match. I know today Novak is not my league. Is in a different level to me this year. Tomorrow is a match to try and enjoy and try and play the way that I want to play, and we'll see. Now, that is very negative.
I'd say after that was that press release, I'd say the odds of Nadal just literally...
to me, that was just... I think he very much has his eye on starting fresh next year and just forgetting about this year completely. Yeah,
well, he came out, I think, maybe a month and a half ago, and him himself and his coach were kind of saying, look, the worst of this season's over for Rafa, you're going to see a change. And to a point, he has done that, because he's come to a final, he's up against Djokovic. At least he's shown he can beat pretty much everyone other than the best in the world, and certainly on in this particular tournament. But he is a long way off what he was. He's not the king of clay really anymore. Djokovic has come from being an almost a tennis impersonator who plays a bit of tennis to being the world number one, and quite comfortably. Looking at the world ranking status now, the number of points he's got, it's I think he's around 5,500 more than anyone else. Yeah,
but when you look at Nadal's route to the final here, I mean, okay, fair enough. He had a decent win against Fognini because
that gave him a hard time a couple of months ago.
Exactly, I suppose that was like a psychological victory there more than anything.
Absolutely,
it showed a bit of steel and a bit of grit to beat Fognini after him beating him. I think 3 times the last.
Yeah,
maybe 2 or 3 times.
He had trouble there, all right.
So he got through Chinese qualifier Wu, Pospisil, Sock, Fognini. And then on Djokovic, that's not...
No, it's not a very difficult run to the final.
No, it's not. I mean, I think if Nadal had met Ferrer in the semi-final...
He would have had problems.
He would have problems, definitely. Yeah. I mean, just looking there, Djokovic came through Isner, Ferrer, and that's a much harder route.
Well, Isner, big hitter. And Ferrer is absolutely, like you said, he's a bullfighter. He's probably in the wrong sport. He's a bullfighter. But
and just I'm just looking at Djokovic's results there in this tournament. 6-1, 6-1, 6-2, 6-1. 6-2, 6-2, 6-2, 6-3, and then Nadal 6-2, 6-2.
So one person has only in one set of the whole tournament he's actually conceded 3 sets. I mean, that's incredible.
I think Ferrer might have been the first break point he faced. I could be wrong there now. I thought I read that somewhere. Okay. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I think he's had 30 straight sets now at this China Open. He loves this fucking tournament. So it was pretty predictable that Nadal was going to face the chop.
Well, yeah, and he basically said it himself. The writing was on the wall before the game was played. He was enjoying his tennis, which he's kind of said, look, I'm going to enjoy tomorrow as well. And it's a return to form of sorts for Nadal really to reach a final. Do you not think?
I don't think it is. I mean, I think
maybe not going down 6-2, 6-2, but certainly making it to the final of the event.
I mean, fair enough. It's a hardcore final. Probably wouldn't have pre-tournament thought Nadal was going to get that far.
Correct.
But that kind of approach, that quote that I read, I mean, that's
it's
the
not.
writing was
It's
on the
not
wall
like
there.
it's not like a quote you would have heard of a Rafa who in any way fancied himself, and you'd like to think he's going to put the season behind him because.
Well, I think he wants to finish the season off as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Thing is, now where does this place him then for the Masters this week?
Well, I don't think I wouldn't be fancying betting on him anyway.
No, but does the fact he got to a final here improve things, or does the fact that he got absolutely destroyed by Djokovic today just put him completely out of the equation?
Well, it can do one of two things. He could go away and say, you know what, I've only just been beaten by the best player in the world. I can beat anyone else, and he could go from that point of view. He could also be feeling a little bit leggy after all those games. So exactly, have an advantage over him. It's
not good for Nadal to play that many games. I mean, everyone's talked about his fitness, about how he's not in the same shape as he used to be. Tennis hasn't been good to his body, basically.
Well, you're the king of clay. A surface that you're going to have that much friction in the joints and the knees and stuff. You can only do it for so long. Like Michael Owen playing football, eventually something had to give. You can't play at that level for that long and consistently do it. Over that number of years, Federer is a bit of a freak in nature, and that he's come back into himself. But
Djokovic as well is he's a guy that you can see just having quite a long career.
You can.
Whereas Nadal, he possibly could be.
Next season's probably going to be. It's going to tell a lot, I think, about the future for Rafa, won't it?
But he certainly has his eye on next season, and it'll be interesting to see how he does in the Australian Open.
Yeah, it will.
And certainly, if by the clay court season, if he's not challenging for Roland Garros, I mean, that could be lights out for Nadal, you'd think.
Yeah, well, you'd expect at that stage he'd be asking as much questions of himself as anyone else will, because I mean he is a proud player. He's not going to just decide overnight, I'm just going to play for fun. He wants to play to win, and I think if he felt he can't challenge anymore, and he hadn't done it for that kind of length of time, he's probably going to maybe just go out with as much grace as he can. But I'd like to think that's not something we're going to have to worry about.
This was his first season not to win a slam since 2004.
Oh, that's 11 years. It's a long time.
Yeah, and just have a little stat.
And it hasn't even looked like winning one, I should say.
Absolutely. Nowhere near it. The last trophy you won on hardcourt was 2014, January 2014. That's almost 2 years without a hardcourt title at any level. So, it's a lot to prove.
He does. And I certainly, as a fan, would like to see a return to form of sorts. I'd like to see him maybe win a slam next year. Would I be putting my money on him winning a slam next year? I'm not even sure I'd be putting my money on him winning a Masters next year, the way he's playing. But I'd like to think that a strong off season for Rafa, come back in good shape and a bit more confidence. I mean, I think a tournament like that might do him the world of good. Confidence. I know he's been beaten quite comfortably by Djokovic, but I don't think any player would complain if they're being beaten by a player of Djokovic's level. But I think Rafa should be expecting more of himself than being absolutely put laid to the sword by Djokovic in the final of any event.
I suppose it was very predictable.
It was.
Other news this morning was Wawrinka, who beat Para. How would you pronounce that name?
Parry, yeah, I think so. Yeah, close enough. I think that's pretty much the curtain raiser of the oh, sorry, no, it was the final of
Tokyo.
Of Tokyo, indeed. Yeah.
No, but what I thought was interesting about that was Nishikori losing in the semi-finals. I want to read you his quote for this one as well. Let me tell me what you think it is.
He's actually had a lot of quotes in the media lately. Which one are you going to quote?
Have a listen to this one. This is when he lost, which he lost 1-6, 6-4, 6-2. So he destroyed Perla in the first set. But obviously lost it in the last two
sets. Which he had done to his opponent in the game before. He'd been beaten in the first set, and he just went.
Here's a post-match quote from Nishikori. I beat myself, and that's why I lost. I made some basic mistakes. If I'd been aggressive the way I was in the first set, the result of the match would have been different.
What do you read into that?
How arrogant is that? Like, he's basically said, I beat myself and that's why I lost. Like, no credit given to his opponent whatsoever.
No.
Now, he's playing at home. I think it was probably a bit of an embarrassment for him. I think he's won this title a couple of times. Obviously, it's his home title. Like, he's there to win. The crowd expect him absolutely to be at least.
Well, the
in the
Asian
final.
swing is his turf. You'd expect he's going to hit there and he's going to be in with flying confidence. And it was no surprise he got where he got into it. But that in terms of going out in any game with in that kind of fashion, it's very, very poor from him, and he hasn't, like you said, he hasn't given anyone any credit other than he was off his game. Maybe that's true, but
maybe, and there's still also maybe slight lingering doubts about his fitness,
which has been a problem all season, which is maybe something that we'll touch on. I suppose that we'll probably touch on regularly enough when it comes to betting, because Nishikori is someone we've bet on this season. But someone that we've had to be very careful of, because he has had injuries. He'd missed tournaments, and he's gone out of tournaments as a result of the injuries that he's had. So definitely one to bet on with caution, if at all, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got massive potential. The US Open, was a complete disaster
It was.
for him this year.
Tragic.
Knocked out in the first round after having been in the final the year previous.
Yes.
So
that was very unprecedented, and to be honest, I think a lot of people might have lost a lot of money on that, because you could have at least expected him to get to the quarterfinals there as an absolute gimme, really.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on him as well.
We will.
I suppose other small news is the continuing debacle about Murray potentially missing the World Tour finals because of the Davis Cup fixture.
Yes.
What's there to really be said about that? It just, when this first came out, there was a bit of there was apparently reports that he might not be interested in competing in this upcoming Shanghai Masters. That he might give that a bit of a tip as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So just maybe keep an eye on Murray in this tournament as well, which starts today, or
has just started. Just started. Yeah.
So keep an eye on him for that one. He was momentarily ranked number 2 for about a day there, was he?
About a day. I think Federer's rightly claimed the second spot once again.
Yeah. So maybe that's just something to keep an eye on with Murray. His end of season is very unpredictable at the moment now with that potential. Obviously, with the final, he's obviously going to play the Davis Cup final.
Yes, but that looks to be the biggest thing he has on his radar at the moment. I think after that,
I think he will play the World Tour final, but
I think he will as well. I mean, like if you listen to the interviews the players give about this, it's kind of like what they want to give back to the fans, and they all seem to love it. Novak has come out and said how much he loves it. Federer, they kind of want to play in this event,
and
I think that's maybe the reason why it was as much of
it's a real showcase event.
It is.
Then again, Britain haven't won the Davis Cup since 1936.
And you see, that's...
Murray wants to be... He wants that.
He wants
It's funny because we'll be getting to the betting side of things now later in the podcast, but Davis Cup is to be avoided, in my opinion, when it comes to betting. There's some mental results in the Davis Cup, and I always get the impression that as much as players say in the media how honoured they are to play for the country, at times it's just a hindrance because the schedule is so busy that I think the Davis Cup is a bit of a hindrance, and that's why you get very, very strange results. But at this stage, where Murray could potentially be involved in the first British win in Davis Cup since 1936, when Fred Perry won the damn thing.
Yeah,
he wants that big time. He wants that more than the million he's going to get for just turning up at the World Tour finals.
Which I think it says a lot about Murray, to be honest. He's a proud player. He wants to do well. He's not happy with the arrangements in terms of the change in surface between the events, and that's something he's conscious of how his own body reacts to that, and potentially, I think he's looking at that if playing those tournaments and changing surface was to take away from his performance in the Davis Cup, he might never get this opportunity again. Yeah,
well, his eye now on this end of season is definitely for the Davis Cup, so that's worth bearing in mind when it comes to backing him in other tournaments. So the next big tournament just kicked off today, basically. Besides qualifiers,
it's just underway.
Shanghai Masters, yeah. Any views on that?
Well, I think maybe what we could do is we could have a look. I suppose a lot of the big names have been given buys in the first
Well, the top 8 seeds will have been given buys, indeed.
They will. I suppose just looking at it,
overall, who's your favourite to win?
Well, I mean, it's. I think to win, it's hard to look beyond the main man, Djokovic, isn't it? I mean, he's obviously enjoying the Asian swing so far, and I think it's something that he's going to
just looking at the side of the bracket he's on.
Yeah,
I think he has probably one of the slightly easier routes through. He's in the same quarter as Ferrer, who has been playing well.
He has,
but Tomic has just made it through, so his first match.
He's likely to meet him in the quarterfinal by the look of things.
And his run, Djokovic's run, it looks like let's see,
it's Federer, Murray, and final potential, isn't it? It looks that way anyway.
Well, see, in Federer's quarter, there's Nishikori. That's going to be a tough enough matchup for him. Wawrinka has Nadal, and Berdych has Murray.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad course for Murray. It'll be interesting to see whether his motivation is there to go deep in this tournament.
It is.
So Djokovic is your man?
I think
it's hard to see past him.
I think as an overall winner, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's very easy to turn around and say I think Djokovic is going to win, because I mean it's not really going too far outside the box thinking wise. But if I was to put my money on an outright winner, and if I was to fancy anybody, I think it's very hard to look beyond Djokovic. I think the other players that you might fancy, they're just going to have too much to do to beat a player like Djokovic on his day. Especially if he really wants it, and off the back of he's just destroyed Nadal today, 6-2, 6-2, as we just discussed. So I would say Djokovic is getting the bye from the first round. He's gonna come into this fresh, back on hard court. He seems to be enjoying it there. I'd say Djokovic is gonna take this one. He looks likely that he's probably going to come up against Ferrer and Murray on his way through, and Ferrer will give him a tough battle, but Is it going to be enough to beat Djokovic?
The semi against Murray will be interesting, though.
Yeah, if Murray gets there, as we said, I would expect that's exactly what the route he's going to take. It'll be Djokovic will be Ferrer, probably beat Murray, and then he'll probably likely to have a final. It's gonna be very interesting to see with Nishikori. Nishikori looking to probably meet Federer in the quarterfinal. If I was to put my money on a two-man final, it probably would be Djokovic against Federer. I'd love to say Djokovic against Nishikori, but I just, again, if it was this time next year and Nishikori had a strong season and Federer a year older, you'd probably say, oh yeah, probably will be Nishi. But Federer is in great form, obviously, and the niggling injuries for Nishikori
could surprise, but on previous results and that horrendous US Open campaign, I'm not sure.
No, I'd be saying Djokovic Federer final, to be honest. That would be, and it's obviously the most likely. But I think if you're to look at even just thinking outside the box, it's very hard to look beyond that, I think.
Gilles Simon was a finalist here last year.
Okay,
hasn't had much of it in the last couple of months. He is in Djokovic's quarter. So do you see him getting deep at all?
Well, let's look at it. I suppose Basilashvili is a qualifier. He's probably not going to give him really any difficulty. Berdych has come through. Berdych is likely to play against, I think, the winner of Meyer, if Meyer wins his game, as we've predicted. And Simon Meyer is likely to be up against Berdych, you would expect, in the last round prior to the quarterfinals. That probably could be a tricky game, and he's probably likely to meet Murray at that stage.
I'm just looking there, actually.
Difficult to see.
Just looking there, it looks like Murray might meet Goffin. Yeah, that's the quarterfinal, is it? I mean, he's in the same bracket. He's going to be coming through again, so it's going to be.
It's the last round. It's just before the quarterfinal.
That'll be an interesting matchup. Murray Goffin. I like Goffin. He's a real confident, consistent player.
Yeah,
he's been really good to us.
He has been good to us this season. He has. Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting matchup. See if Murray has what it takes to get past Goffin, who also will be playing in the Belgian Davis Cup final.
Yes,
I believe. So that'll be an interesting matchup. Any dark horse there that you fancy to go deep? Who's going to be the surprise package of Shanghai?
If I was to put a surprise package, I might just look outside the box in this one. I'd probably go with Cilic. Cilic is starting off against Wu. He'd play against...
Which is an absolute banker. I mean, may as well just turn up with, his hands behind his back, and I'll say no more. No,
I think that should be a walk in the park for Cilic. He is then going to be against Korik, then likely to be playing the winner against Wawrinka, and you would expect it's Troicki against, I think it's Cuevas from Uruguay. So after that, then you're probably looking at Cilic against Nadal. Now, we've seen Nadal be beaten quite comfortably by Djokovic. I could see Cilic going pretty deep in this one. I would go with Cilic.
Yeah, I think definitely possible surprise package in there. And
he potentially could end up then. I would see Cilic through to the semi-final. He's going to probably come up against Nishikori or Federer. On his day, Cilic is he's got some big wins in him. He's shown that in the past. And
he was a US Open winner 2014.
Last year, yeah,
so,
he was.
I mean, he has what it takes to go deep in a hardcore tournament. So
he does.
Whether at this stage of the season he has, I'm not sure.
No.
Back to Goffin, I think Goffin could possibly do a decent run here. Again, he does meet Murray there at that stage, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Goffin go past Murray in the...
I would probably be inclined to go with Murray on that one. I think if Murray wants it, I think
Murray will definitely be favourite, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Goffin do the deed against Murray.
It's definitely not beyond the realms of possibility. All right, yeah, absolutely true.
So early round bets.
Okay, yeah, let's get straight into
I do have one or two of the ones we've noticed. Let's start off with one that doesn't quite pass our system.
Yeah.
And that's Klizin against Zhang.
Yes.
So Klizin, fairly solid recently. He has poor results, but they always seem to be at the challenger level tournaments. Now, obviously, we want to be betting on players who are...
consistent in all tournaments.
Well, are basically just playing ATP. We don't want players... messing around in the lower level challenger tournaments.
They shouldn't need to.
No, they shouldn't need to. But Klizin seems to be a fairly good matchup against this lad, Zhang, who hasn't really had much of it. He's just obviously a local lad.
He is, so he has the home. Maybe the home. Sometimes the home crowd can really boost these young players. You've seen it with a number of players this season that the home crowd seems to lift them a little bit, gives them that extra bit of something.
It is something you got to look out for. But this lad Zhang is He's 219th in the world against Clison's 42nd. So just off the bat, like he's obviously quite a margin there. Clison is 13-17 in the last 6 months, whereas Zhang is 4-3. That's win-loss. And the last time Zhang has beaten a top 50 player was in 2012. So he hasn't been at this level in a long, long time.
It's stacked up against him, really, isn't it?
It is stacked up against him. Clison is 1.43 to do the job.
Well, you know something? He's outside, as we've sort of said in our introductory podcast.
Slightly outside.
He's outside the top 40, so he's not something we would take a risk on. But in terms of, as far as betting goes and value bets go, which is something we obviously avoid in our system, but it's not something that we're afraid to talk about. 1.4 is, in our minds, certainly not something that we would see very often in the realms of our betting, but it's a very, very good odds for what looks like a very simple matchup for
his checklist comes out at 1 high flag, 1 medium flag, and 2 low flags.
Okay.
The high flag is obviously the rank. He's outside the top 40. So if you were to dismiss that, it would actually be a pass.
It would.
So that's the only thing keeping it out of a pass. His other fails in the flags are for 6 months results. He had a couple of bad results there, here and there, but it hasn't been too bad. Home advantage for the Chinese lad. That's a small flag. And then the head-to-head, there's no head-to-head information between these two players. So
we can't really see how they've
it's hard to make
each other. No, it is nice to see some recent information in terms of the head-to-head matchup, because there can be certainly, if not psychological advantages, but even just on a certain surface, sometimes their actual rank and place doesn't really tell the full picture really about certain players, and I think that's what we try to try and capture with certainly one of the checks.
Yeah, as I said, Zhang, he's beaten a top 50 player once, and that was against Gasquet, who can be a bit of a...
Well, we've both seen the worst of him this season. I certainly know.
Just going through, reading up a little bit about that match, as apparently Gasquet just absolutely threw that away. So I can't see Zhang getting the better of Clison. I think that's a decent shout there. It's not on the system, but if you fancy putting a few quid in that, 1.43 for Clison.
Yep.
The absolute banker on the complete other end of the scale,
yes.
which it's just an absolute banker, but the odds are so low, unfortunately, that it's not something we can go for, is Cilic to beat Wu.
Yes.
It's an absolute stone
my man. You would like to think, I'll have to retract, if he doesn't actually absolutely destroy Wu in that first game, you'd have to be really asking questions about how he's going to do in the tournament, wouldn't you? So
Cilic is 34-19 this year in ATP Tour. Wu is 0-3. And even if you add in all the challenger tournaments which Wu has played, he's still 3-10. So that's 3 wins and 10 losses for the season. Can
I just ask? I wonder if this is a guy you talked about, Nadal reflecting on his tennis. Is this someone that might potentially look at maybe just packing it in with that sort of form?
I don't know enough about the lad to be able to give him that kind of career advice, but
I mean, really,
after this beating he's going to get from Cilic, potentially
he might have to the writing could be on the wall after this one. That's
unfortunate.
That's a banker, and it's below 1.10 for
it's funny though, on Pinnacle I think that was around about 1.07, so I think it was close to a pass. Like they're the kind of match we really want to get early.
Absolutely.
I mean, if that draw, if we'd been on the ball and gotten that very early, possibly. I don't think it ever got to 1.1.
No.
But it was very close, so they're the kind of best we want to get. Moving on to the bet that we did go for.
The one we've tipped on our Twitter.
We have, it's on Twitter there. It's our Mayer to beat Bay.
Yes.
1.1. If you want a bit more information on how we evaluate these bets in our system, we have the introductory podcast, which you can listen to. Link below in this video.
Yes, indeed. Have a listen to it if you haven't already.
So the results of that checklist were 0 high flags, 0 medium flags, and 2 low flags. The 2 low flags are for head-to-head. No head-to-head information.
Okay. Always a slight concern, but not really in this case.
It's nice information to have. That's why it's a low.
Yes, it's only a low flag.
And then home advantage, obviously Bay, Chinese lad playing in China.
Yeah.
It doesn't take...
They're the kind of flags that we'd really look at, and even though it looks like, that's, if we can allow up to 3, that's 2 out of 3, is that a risk? To put it into context, some of the stuff that we look at with low flags, would maybe be something we'd have to consider beyond the we'd actually have to look at the game a little bit closer to see if we wanted. But these are things where, okay, the guy's Chinese, it's still a tennis match. They might be able to lift his game, but can he lift his game to beat someone that number of world ranking places above him? You would have thought not.
No.
And the other one is, they haven't had any head-to-heads. There's no guarantee every player's played against each other before.
Absolutely, especially at this kind of level.
When you actually have a world ranking place that's that low, you're not going to probably have the head-to-head. So there, you would say they're probably the things that you'd maybe least be concerned about, and certainly the head-to-head. When a player is playing against a player that's that far outside the top 40, you could almost disregard that because they're not going to have it.
It's very nice to have, but obviously that's what low flags there for. Now, Mayer, I think he's about rank 36 at the moment. I know the ranks have changed a little bit today.
They have,
but he's around rank 36. He's actually very solid below 1.2. When he's an absolute favourite, he's actually very solid. I've written down here the last time Mayer lost at these odds was February 2015, but that was due to retirement.
Okay.
You have to go back a long, long way to find him losing at these kind of odds previously.
And he's competed in every tournament since. There's actually no current concerns about his
No, I mean,
injury,
that was back in February, so he's had quite a while to...
It's normally enough time.
Oh, absolutely,
If he stood the test of every other tournament now, there's no reason to believe that a reoccurrence is going to happen now.
And on the flip side, the last time Bay beat a top 40 player was in 2010.
And who was that?
That was against Stepanek.
Okay.
Okay, so again, one of those players that is very unpredictable. Stepanek, yes. Big up and down streaks. So that's really, I can't see this lad Bay giving Mayer any kind of trouble.
No, and I think that, to be honest, the odds reflect that. I mean, at the moment, I think Pinnacle are offering Bay at a very, very tasty. If you're
throwing away your money,
yeah, I think they're offering around 8.0, okay. 8.0. Now, anywhere over 4.0, the bookies really don't fancy the player. It's not to say that money can't be made there. Of course it can, but when you're talking about a player that's world ranking is that low, and with that sort of,
yeah.
It's going to be a huge mountain to climb.
Well, Bay's 2-4 this year in ATP. So he's played 6 ATP level matches this season. He's won 2 and he's lost 4.
And what kind of opponents were we looking at him playing against in those 2 wins? Do we know?
Not sure. I have to look through his match history there.
Okay, well,
but Mayer is 23-24 this year. Now that's not great. It's basically 50%, but many more matches at this level, much more experience. He has only played twice in this tournament before.
Okay. When was his last?
I think he played. Off the top of my head, I haven't got it in front of me here. I think he played 2009 and got knocked out first round, which was his first time in this tournament.
Okay.
And then he played last year, and I think he got to the second round, possibly. I haven't got that information.
The reality of it is, a player at his level, top 40, is not going. He's going to see this as a gimme. He's going to see this as. He's almost going to be looking ahead to the next round,
absolutely.
Really, isn't he?
As long as he hasn't got his eye off the match too much, he should be okay.
I mean, really. If you're in the top 40, you want to be getting at least a certain amount of points for the tournament. If you can, getting through against a qualifier really should be the first. It shouldn't even be entering his game. His game should be at a standard where he's not allowing this player even a set. That's where you should be looking at another 2-0 here, which we've become quite used to now in betting this season.
Yeah, we certainly have. Yeah. I think this guy might be a wild card rather than a qualifier.
He is.
Could be wrong with that though.
Mayer.
I'll get it here.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a wild card. Okay. So that's a plus for me. I think
he has done nothing to warrant being here.
Well, I wouldn't say that. No, I mean, obviously been given for a reason, but it is a bit of a plus because they
give the Chinese lads wild cards to get them in to basically give the fans a bit more to look at.
But I prefer it as a wild card rather than a qualifier. Qualifiers are but by the time they've got to this round 1, they've played at least 2 or 3 qualifying matches. They're used to the temperature, they're used to the surface, they're used to the surroundings.
Yes.
It's always I'm always wary of backing players against qualifiers. Even though the qualifier might be 200 ranking places below a certain player, there's something to be said for having been there already for a few days on the courts playing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad he's a wild card.
Well, they're the ones really where when you are talking about the home advantage, if you have home advantage and then you add to that a player who's qualified and they've had 2 very, very good performances, there is obviously the familiarity of the actual event itself, and a couple of consecutive wins, a bit of confidence, and then they have the home crowd as well. So sometimes it can stack up, and if you don't have a very firm bet, it's not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk. In this case, we're saying it's absolutely worth the risk, and potentially there isn't really much risk at all here. It's a 1.1 on Pinnacle. It's fallen below that, unfortunately. So for anyone who's getting on board who don't want to open a new account, well, let's say we would recommend that you did actually make the effort and open the account now, because from what we've seen, certainly Pinnacle has been at the same level and better than the likes of Paddy Power and certainly your typical commercial bookies. Now, if you're going to be on Betfair Exchange, that's fine. You'll probably get those odds easily enough, but you're not going to get them on the top. The top bookies aren't going to offer odds of 1.10.
In every respect, Pinnacle has been better than Paddy Power. I'm not saying anything bad about Paddy Power.
And we're not making any money from Pinnacle whatsoever here either.
No, I mean, Paddy Power's been good to us when we started off, and it does have that the retirement aspect of it.
Has a safety net there. If the player retires, you're going to get your stake back.
Yeah, which is different in Pinnacle. Pinnacle, once a set is played, then the outcome of the match stands regardless of who retires.
Yeah.
So choose your bookie wisely.
Yeah.
The reason why we had to move from Paddy Power was because the limits kicked in very quickly. They very quickly
which they
cut
do.
down on your account.
Yeah.
We used to be able to I don't like talking figures, but there used to be a maximum bet of, you know, €2,000-3,000 on a match. That very quickly got cut down to me to €200.
Yeah.
Which is
they divided. They cut it to a tenth of
what was the max bet, and that's just absolutely useless to what we're doing.
And we were able to test that actually quite directly because I set up a Paddy Power account. I had one sort of more historically, and it was literally I had an extra zero on the
exactly.
And
it was absolutely exactly. It was like I can't remember exactly what it was.
It was a Djokovic
2,700,
game,
and then for me it was 270. Something like that. It was literally a tenth. So they very quickly shut that account down, and that's why I had to move on. And Pinnacle, they say now. Look, I've only been with Pinnacle a little while. They say they won't limit bets. You can put as much as you want on a match. They won't put a roof on what you can bet. So let's see if that happens.
And I think I'd take a certain amount of comfort in that. Anyone I've seen who's posted any other tipsters or bookie, anyone who's looking to try and make a few quid at the, and starts building their account, you're not likely to see screenshots from anyone but Pinnacle. So I think, and we've seen that quite recently.
Shite website though.
It's not a great website. Maybe the lads could sort it out. But to be honest, I would say if it means they can keep giving us these odds and not putting the ceiling on their max bet.
It's a Ryanair of bookies basically. No frills, but just gets the job done.
Yeah, and the thing to remember with this is, and maybe another reason to do it is because we're talking about having a separate account, etc. No better time to open a set to actually have a fresh account with Pinnacle. Get in there. All we're going to be doing is giving you bets prior to the games. You don't need to have doubles. You don't, because they don't offer doubles. You don't need to have bets on, fancy, will they win a set? All we want is a money line bet. Will this player win pre-match? Get the best odds. We have found Pinnacle to basically tick all the boxes there. So without going into much more detail, we would recommend that's where you're going to get the odds of 1.10.
That's where we are. That's where you should be.
That's where we are. That's where you should be, exactly.
So to wrap up Shanghai then, I think we're saying our outright winner, as predicted by just about everybody, is probably going to be Djokovic.
Likelihood is Djokovic.
At least, surely the finals anyway. For dark horses, I think, well, we've mentioned Goffin. He's at 176. Pera, 151. Nishikori, 19. Cilic is 51. What was your dark horse?
I'm saying Cilic.
Yes, Cilic at 51. Yeah. I'm going to stick with Goffin at 176 just because I love a massive outsider there. I think he could do the job against Murray if he gets that far. And then the tournament's his oyster. A Chinese oyster.
Yeah, yeah, I like it.
So we'll see who does the job there.
So what we're saying is we are going to have a little leaderboard.
Okay.
We'll just take a point for the winner. So if whoever goes further between your man Goffin and my man Cilic will give us a little. To be honest, it's not going to make a huge difference. Only a couple of tournaments left this season, but it's something we'll probably do throughout next season just to see who can call the dark horse in each tournament just for fun. But for the first tournament, we'll do it anyway. But ultimately, it's hard to see beyond Mr. Novak Djokovic for the win.
Exactly. All right, that just about wraps up our podcast. Dara, how can listeners get in touch with us?
Well, outside the Twitter, we've given 2 Twitter handles they can find us at for our bets and for our show. They can search Net Profit Bets on Facebook, find us there, or if they want to send us an email, mailnetprofit altogether at gmail.com.
Excellent stuff. We'll be back probably before the Masters tournament at the start of November.
And we hope to have a few tasty Twitter bets on
Keep an eye on that Net Profit Bets Twitter page. That's where the bets are going to be.
Get on board as soon as we put them up.
Do it. You won't regret it this time next year. Guarantee.
No. Okay, until then.
All right.
See you.
See you there.
Bye.
Bye.